fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
Welcome, my brother.
Namaste.
Yes, namaste. So that guy over there is my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Brotherhood of Liberty. We are Ballistic Patriot. Before I go any further, let's take a moment. Right beneath there's a like button. Click that. And then over next to it, there's a share button of some sort. Share it with your friends. Let them know just how awesome you are by watching us right now. And it's best to get us live because you can send in your comments and they will hopefully show up on the screen. And you'll be able to share them with your friends and neighbors. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jim. That is Jim the teacher. And next to me is John Wick, the lawyer, my brother.
Why are they going to push the like button if they haven't seen the show yet?
They're going to push the like button because we're awesome. Because we're
obviously
like because we're naturally awesome. We exude awesomeness. Yes, they're going to like us no matter what because we're just great.
All right.
There's no test in this. This is an easy peasy thing, right?
Easy peasy. Yeah.
Easy peasy, brother. Easy peasy. So I want to start off tonight. Tonight's plans are we're going to be covering a plethora of material. I'm going to give you some updates. Then my brother is going to talk about can you arrest an FBI agent, and I will be talking about forced organ harvesting and transplants in China and how it's connected to the Democrats, of course. And, of course, we have the last piece, Tubin History. Right, brother? Does that sound about right for you?
I guess that's what we're going to go at it. Yeah.
I guess. Maybe. Maybe why not, right? We'll give it a shot. So, just got this new video that I finished, brother. We're going to play this. It's dealing with critical race theory. And we'll start with this.
What is happening in our schools? Our children are supposed to be safe behind the walls of our schools.
Critical race theory is designed to divide us. Critical race theory is meant to corrupt our children. Critical race theory is meant to turn our children into racist, hating each other based on the color of their skin. Didn't Democrats do this to America once with their racist Jim Crow laws? Didn't a brave man stand in front of the Lincoln Memorial and tell all of us that the color of your skin is not as important as the content of your character?
What happened to making a colorblind society?
My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream.
Ask yourself, which party is standing against critical race theory? Ask yourself, which party is pushing critical race theory on our children, on our families, on all of us? Now ask yourself why. So, brother, I came up with this video, and I wanted to share it with our audience. If I can get the overlay off here for a second, because it's important for us to talk about, because there's definitely a backlash coming out on critical race theory. Now, of course, this is the tool being used by the left to attack our schools and calling, in essence, everybody who's white racist and accusing us of deep-seated hatred towards anybody who isn't white. And of course, this is just simply racism. Basing people, your opinion on people based off of their color of their skin, we know is a racist act in itself. So I wanted to highlight that with our video. because it leads us into what this report that I have up on the screen and I'm about to play, which goes into the backlash in the school boards across the country.
I think the Board of Education and those sitting on the panels are thieves. I think they're liars and have committed treason against our children. My message to this district and the members of the Board of Ed: stop indoctrinating our children.
As an educator, it is not our job to shame kids. It is our job to lift kids up. It is not my job as an educator to take on the role of the parent. Sadly, I believe it's limited in our classrooms, and kids are made to feel ashamed.
In Douglas, Colorado,
as the groups are broken down into race, gender identity, sexual preference, and oppression. We all know the Dr. King quote that has been shared: color of our skin versus the content of our character. He had a dream. This is a nightmare.
and in Loudoun County, Virginia.
Students, you are on the front lines of these indoctrination camps. Challenge the staff when you're presented with a ludicrous statement, and do not allow anybody to tell you that you cannot accomplish anything because of your skin color, or to hate yourself because of your skin color. Students, it is up to you to be the next generation of victims or victors. And finally, to the board, this isn't over, and your policies are just as...
That last speaker was.
Yeah, they shut her down.
Why?
Right?
Why bleep that? Why?
No, that wasn't me. That was them. So they there's this big push, and as you are well aware of, and our listeners, there's this big push against or for the critical race theory, and as our videos suggest, this is something being pushed by Democrats, which we well know, we've well seen over the last year. This is not going away. We have to fight this in the schools, and we have to fight this on the school boards, and we have to fight this in our culture. This is unacceptable behavior to base your opinion on somebody or how somebody is thinking based on the color of their skin. That is in itself, again, a racist action. Regardless of what your motive is, regardless of what you say your motive is, the outcome is it divides us, it causes us to hate each other, and it splits us up into groups instead of pulling us together like MLK wanted us to be, and suggested that is the only way that we can go forward as a country, which is a colorblind society where you're judged on the content of your character, not the color of your skin. So, brother, the idea we have here is we need to stand against that. And I know we do, and we need to spread this message around to all your friends and your neighbors. And we need to get people elected to the school boards who are willing to stand up to the states, because this isn't just something that's being developed in the schools by the teachers. In many cases, the teachers are having it pushed on them. And in many cases, we see it being pushed on by the school boards, and it's being pushed on the school boards by the state. So take a state like New Jersey. We have King Murphy, the tyrant himself, who has been pushing and pushing and pushing his leftist agenda for the last 4 years, and is going to continue if he wins in November. This is where we need to make the decision. We need to push them back at the ballot box, and we also need to push them back at the school boards. And because the more school board members we have on board with this, the more defenses we have in the local school boards, and to fight against the tyranny of the state and now the federal government, because we have that guy who's sleeping in the White House next to the person he thinks is his sister. That guy is going to be pushing critical race theory too. So I want to make that clear as part of the updates, but it's also really an agenda item that we need to have in our future discussions and shows. So there's that, brother. It turns out that video was just by chance that it got on the show tonight, because the story that is up there above it, reporter who broke the story on Clinton Lynch tarmac meeting found dead, John. Another instance where we have another Clinton connection of somebody who's mysteriously, brother, found dead. Yeah, so that has to be that. I saw that article, and I saw the video then too. I'm like, this is like a twofer. We should definitely use this. This definitely needs to go into the show. And we do have a question from Joey Livings. Where is the Durham report? Great question. I don't know. I know that the Epic Times has a timeline of what's been going on, and it is absolutely great question. Maybe we'll do a report on that next week, John, on the Durham report.
How did he die? How did the reporter die? Was it like a certain Epstein?
No, he did not die. It's not really clear how he
died?
was. It's
He was
just
just
very
found dead.
mysterious. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was found dead. It's not
He
really
probably hung himself.
clear. It's very well possible that he did. So we have that on the books. I wanted to talk about this. This was reported to me by one of our friends, brother, the gentleman who remain nameless as of now, but hopefully we'll have him on the show soon. He was that's not the one. He was instrumental in getting our clip or showing us our clip about the Black Lives Matter, which I will show in a moment. If you will note, brother, I'm gonna play our Black Lives Matter video here to kind of give everyone a message or an understanding of, where is that? Oh, it's not there. So I guess I can't play it. I'll pull that up in a minute while you watch this. Watch this piece right here, brother. So I'm not going to be able to get the video up, I think. But John, the point is, we broke this story. We didn't break it. Well, we certainly talked about it, and I created a video which is deciding it's not going to play on back on April 19th. You can go back and look on the Ballistic Patriot channel. You can see it talks about, we call BLM is actually big luxury mansions, and we break down some of the. And I don't know if you remember that video, brother, but we break down some of the main issues faced with why did this Marxist going around saying that she's all for this, everyone to each his own, and whatever your needs are to each his, you should get all the Marxist ideology, and then she turns around and she buys herself 4 very luxury homes, which are over $3 million, and we talked about this months ago or a month and a half ago, and that's just showing up on Hannity or just talking about it now again with her stepping down today, or I'm sorry, May 28th. So that's another issue that we can put in the books of Ballistic Patriot being above the cutting edge, brother. We were talking about it, we were pushing it, before it was becoming mainstream knowledge. I have one more thing that I want to share if the computer here, which is being a little bit flaky on me, will let me. So let's see. Here it is. All right, here we go. So I love this. For once, John, we see the left media, the communist left media, the
Tubin media.
The Tubin media is finally doing something other than grabbing a hold of something hard. Here we go.
Important, but it is my firm belief that if we care about what's happening at the border, we better care about the root causes and address them. And so that's what I'm doing.
It's not the only
Oh wait, wrong spot. Sorry.
Border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And
So John, you haven't been to the border either, right?
And I haven't been to North Dakota yet either.
I haven't been to North Dakota yet either. So I mean, and I haven't been to Brazil either. So let's come up with a list of places we haven't been, brother. Because in actuality, she could have picked any of these places, right? I mean, she is a well-traveled person. She has actually, has so much knowledge on so many different things. The truth is, John, she's a lightweight. This woman's a lightweight. She's unbelievably just a giant lightweight. Peggy couldn't hear the guy talking in the previous clip.
Neither could I, but I thought you were doing it, so I thought.
Oh, well, I apologize, everybody. Must not have clicked shared audio. What the guy had said was he was talking about how Black Lives. You could see what he said though. He was talking about how he was saying.
Yeah, I could read it. We should keep going. Keep going with Kami.
So Kami Kamala here, she's a lightweight. She's an empty. She actually makes me wish for Dan Quayle. I mean, they talk about Dan Quayle, about how bad he was, and I'm thinking Dan Quayle was a much better VP than this person. At least Dan Quayle didn't show up on the scene in a cocktail dress on Montel Williams' arms. That's how she first got into fame. So she was on Montel Williams' arms as his date. So So here's one, John. For someone that with that many miles, it's amazing she hasn't been to Europe. Yes, Jim. Yes, it is completely surprising, especially with someone with that many miles as she does.
Whoa.
She does. Anyway, so that I think is
count, brother.
What's that, brother?
Miles on a bed don't count.
But there it is.
It's a late night
there
show.
It is.
We can go there.
Yeah, why not?
The
Why
matches
not?
don't count.
Exactly. There we go. Here's another one from him. Heels up.
Oh. Oh boy.
Oh, there it is.
That's wrong on so many levels.
But it's so right.
I was wrong on so many levels.
Yeah. I have one for you, brother. Her plane was turned around. I got this from Snake Doc. He told me that he had heard that her plane had been turned around, and he wondered how hard it was to turn the broom around.
Oh,
there's one to Snake Doc. All right, that's it for me, brother. Let's move on to the how to can you arrest a FBI agent?
Yes. Recently, just this week, they're finishing up the audit in Arizona, and I think they have one more table to go, forensic, but they have 60 tables of forensic tables to go, and that's where they have 4 people looking at each of the ballots. But the actual scanning of the ballots is almost done. They have one more pallet to go, one more. I think they have like 19 tables of the scanning, and there are 60 tables of the forensic table. But they're getting to the finishing the scanning, and of course they're looking for 4 things. They're looking for an accurate fold in the ballot. They're looking for fake ballots. They're looking for machine printed ballots, and they're looking for like Xerox ballots, anything out of the ordinary. Well, just this week, the Biden's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, made a threat to the to the auditors in Arizona. Do you have a little clip of that?
I have a clip. I don't know if it's the one that you want, but let's see what happens. Something going on with the internet right now. I'm definitely getting slow.
I could just go on that. Anyway,
to curb voter access, where we see violations, we will not hesitate to act. We are also scrutinizing current laws and practices in order to determine whether they discriminate against Black voters and other voters of color.
I'm not sure if that's the piece you wanted, but
that's good enough.
He was talking about a little bit of that.
So basically, the AG comes out and makes this statement threatening Arizona, and there was a attorney, Matthew DePerno, who's DePerno, I think I got it right, who is saying that there's been a leak that's saying that Garland is either going to shut down the audit and seize all the material, or let it go. There's a decision now trying to be made in the AG's office. Now, so it has had an effect. The head of the Arizona Senate, Miss Karen Fawn, has backed off to a degree, saying that they had plans to visit the voter homes to investigate like voter registrations that didn't make any sense. And so, for example, they were probably going to get one theory on how they did it is that there's always a street list, and the street list will go with 4 different categories, and in one set of categories there'll be like votes every they'll get like a 4, and there'll be votes every week, every election. Then there'll be another 3 and a 2 and a 1, to the point like the 1 is voted one time 3 decades ago. And so one question would be why did this person voted, so they could actually send somebody out and see if did you vote. Another thing would be like if you have a rural home and you have 100 or 250 votes from there, and they're all one of these machine copies, meaning they can tell a machine copy, whereas if somebody scribbles in one vote and they put it on copy, and the machine kicks out 250, a Xerox machine kicks out 250 of them, and they're all exactly the same. So the Senate president has backed off to saying, well, we're not going to send anybody out. Another Arizona state legislature, Senator Wendy Rogers from the 6th district said, yeah, that's all fine for him to go do it, to go do that, and he can do that. He can go interfere in the Arizona audit, and he can do that, and he'll see the inside of the Arizona jail. And so it brings up a good question: can you arrest the FBI agents and DOJ agents and the Attorney General when they decide to go in to the Coliseum in Arizona and stop the audit? Can you arrest them? And the answer is, of course you can. They have zero authority. They have zero jurisdiction to interfere in the state legislature's audit of a vote. The Constitution is very clear. The power, and we call it a divided government. And we usually just refer to the executive, to the judiciary, and the legislature. We seem to forget the biggest division in the Constitution, which is the federal/state division. And that part of the division of the Constitution gives all of the election power, all of it, to the individual state legislatures. And the state legislatures doing it now. Who would stop an audit anyway? Who would stop somebody finding out if the ballots are legal and good ballots? Only a criminal would want to stop that to begin with. But it actually comes up in one of my favorite topics is, can you arrest a federal agent? Of course you can, because it came up in one of my favorite anti-constitutional cases, Gonzalez versus Race. I don't think I've talked about it before, but this is the case. In about 1996, California passed a compassionate use law, saying that if you exhausted all other medicine, you can use marijuana as you went you were under doctor's care, you got a prescription, and you could use marijuana. Well, anyway, in 1996, I think her name was Angela Race. Poor lady had something like tried 30 different drugs. They all made her vomit she had like a ton of different things wrong with her. And she her doctor tried to sworn to 30 drugs did not work. Marijuana was the only thing that she could keep down that would not have her vomit it. And so she got a prescription for it. And she had 6 plants. And one day, 2 rows of black SUVs showed up, stopped, got out, knocked on the door, had a warrant. So they come in, both the California Patrol, State Patrol, and the CHIPS and the feds came in, and at that point the CHIP officer said, "Ma'am, do you have here's a warrant for these 6 marijuana plants?" She goes, "Well, wait a minute. I have a doctor's prescription and my permit from the government and the dispensary, and these are all bought from the dispensary. She showed the chip officer all that, and the chip officer says, okay, nothing here, nothing wrong here. Our job is done, and goes to leave. At which point the feds go, oh no, we're going to arrest her. At which point there was a Mexican standoff, and the state officers were ready to draw guns on the Fed officers. Now, unfortunately, they kicked it up to Washington. They immediately called Washington, and eventually the chip stood down. But they would have been completely within their rights to wait to see what these federal officers did. And the moment they try to do anything, arrest them at gunpoint and put them in a jail, because state law and that state criminal law trumps whatever fake federal law that they were in. They were the federal jury, the federal officers were there pretending to enforce. Now, interestingly enough, this kicked off the case of Gonzalez versus Race. It's one of those cases where it shows that Scalia was not a conservative. He was pretending to be a conservative, and the only true conservative on the court is Justice Thomas. And in it, what was issue was an earlier case in Filburn. Filburn was a Depression era case where FDR was expanding ridiculously the powers of the federal government with no authority. And Mr. Filburn was a farmer. I think he was growing corn. And the way FDR was doing it was on the basis of the Commerce Clause. And this was a Supreme Court decision, Filburn, on it. And basically what it was Mr. Filburn was just growing corn and stuff for himself. He just wanted to be left alone. He didn't want anybody bother him, and he wasn't doing he was not entering into any interstate commerce or any commerce to begin with at all. And what they did in this case is to regulate, of course, all commerce and to outrageously expand the powers of the federal government. They had the argument was in Filburn was, well, even though he wasn't selling any of the corn, the mere fact that he wasn't selling any corn but was using it for himself impacted interstate commerce. Now that's a ridiculous and nonsense. That's complete nonsense. But that's what they went with. Now the actual law on it, pointed out, I think by Thomas in this case. No, I don't know if Thomas figured it out, but the actual constitutional law on it is real simple. The founding fathers knew what agriculture was. They knew they had a word for it. They knew what industry was, industrialization was. They had words for it, and they also knew what commerce was. Commerce to them was what we would call high-end securities. In law school, there's a whole class on high-end securities exchange and securities. I don't even know what the hell it is. I think it's like contracts between banks and financial instruments and stuff like that. I don't know what it is. There's a test on a bar to test it. There's 6 months you can be in, but it's the high end of securities. It has nothing to do with what we would call commerce. Commerce is regular free market stuff. The founding fathers deliberately extracted it out. Number one, so there wouldn't be any problem with slavery, but also because they didn't want an overpowering federal government, and they want all those local things in control of the states. And if you take the word state out and replace local, you see the true genius of the federal system, because it's the federal system and then local control. And so this is one of the areas, agricultural, industry, and regular commerce, that the founding fathers had delegated to the states. Now, Thomas had made the point in this. He said, well, wait a minute. If we take the federal government's position and Phil Burns and Race's position to be what it is, here's what it is. We could say this. Well, prostitution is a crime. Prostitution is no good. The federal government has an interest in controlling prostitution. Women have women and men have marital relationships. They have sex when they're married. When a person has in a bedroom has sex with their married partner, that affects the commerce of prostitution in the same way that corn affected the commerce of for Mr. Filburn, in the sense that now it is being kept only in the house. Therefore, under the rationale of good old Scalia and the feds in Race and the federal government, just like you could regulate corn and everything to do with commerce, now under this reasoning, you can regulate sex in a bedroom between married couple, and that's the nonsense of where the federal government is today, and actually the current Supreme Court decision, because of course Thomas was in the minority in that, and he was writing a dissent in race, and so it brings up that great point of this, and I believe that Representative Rogers, who happens to be a 20-year veteran from the Air Force, as she flew, I think, C-130s for it, is absolutely right. And so, will a shooting war begin in Arizona over the ballots? I'm hoping not, but every Arizona official, moment when some clown shows up from the federal government deciding that they want to stop an audit or seize something, go, whoa, 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 whoa. They are fully entitled to exercise their rights to protect those ballots under Arizona law. There is no jurisdiction that the federal government has to interfere in that audit. So the question being, can you arrest an FBI agent? Of course you can. Not only that, it's your duty. If you swore an oath, it's your absolute duty to arrest that to FBI agent or DOJ agent for that. Now, ultimately, why would the Attorney General stop this? Actually, there is in the criminal law called a category called inchoate crimes. Your conspiracies fall in here. You're helping criminals get away. Fall in there. Like if you hide a criminal, fall in there. And when you assist somebody covering up a crime, it falls in there. And when you assist somebody getting away, it falls in there. So actually, at this moment, you can make an argument that the only person who would stop an audit is somebody who knows up in their mind that that there's a reason that why the audit is bad, and they want to stop it to prevent the fraudulent and the people who've committed actual crimes get away. So the Attorney General, good old Merrick Garland, better watch out, because what he's doing really is stopping when he's committing an inchoate crime, a crime of thought, a criminal act, in that he is helping the criminals who, if there are any, we don't know yet because we don't know results yet, get away with election fraud. So he's actually committing a crime that should get him locked up. If there was any justice in any one of these states, say Pennsylvania decides to have their forensic audit, say Georgia decides they want to have forensic audit of Fulton County, where we saw it on video. Them stealing the election. Any one of these people have a right to stop the interference from the federal government, from any agent, from that. Why? It's what are you so scared of? The reason why they're scared is because they know that something is wrong. Let it out. I don't know if something is wrong. I think something is wrong, but I don't know. Let the evidence come out. Let's see the ballots. And if there are thousands and thousands and thousands of Xerox ballots in there, then there's a big problem. Somebody needs to go to jail for that, because that's a fraud. That's interference with an election. And for all the Russia we heard, and the crying over election fraud in 2016, to this day Hillary's propagating that. You would think that the left would have it all high on their agenda to keep the elections secure. So apparently it doesn't. It's just another episode of Tubin election integrity. Just like we have Tubin News and Tubin History. The elections secure. So apparently it doesn't. It's just another episode of Tubin election. So that's the answer to the question. But some people, if there is any fraud, I don't know yet. The evidence isn't in yet. We got to wait till the evidence comes in. But if there is any evidence of election fraud, those people need to go to jail. And especially any officials who are trying to cover up the fact after the fact. And that's the answer to the question. Can you arrest a FBI agent? Of course you can, just like anybody else. All right. And
very good, brother. That's very thorough. I wanted to step back for a moment to look at one of the updates that I did not include. The which is this little piece right here. If you notice the school board, I was talking about, pushing back about critical race theory. I wanted to talk a little bit about the masks that we're forcing on our kids right now. Now, the governor the governor of New Jersey, for example, has determined that the students and staff should be wearing masks, regardless of their vaccination. And I have some concerns over that. And I can tell you, as a teacher, it's very hard for me to teach when I have my students wearing a mask. Now, let's just start off with the most obvious. It's very hard to see if a kid's chewing gum first, right? I mean, that's so simple, but it's not just one example of the larger problem, because not only do I not see that they're chewing gum, but I can't identify from the way they're looking whether they're understanding what I'm talking about. I can't figure out if they've grasped the concept I'm trying to teach them. It makes it very hard for me to get those visual cues, and educators need those visual cues. Without them, it makes education that much harder. In the year of the pandemic, it is extremely difficult to get these kids engaged too when they're forced to wear something over their mask. It changes the entire nature of education. Because the best way to get them to teach is also to have them interact with you, is to get them to answer questions. The mask, inhibits them from answering questions. It stops them from wanting to ask questions. It stops them from wanting to answer questions. So when I'm going over whatever document we're going over, and I ask them a question about it, I get silence, and I can generally bring that topic around so that it's something engaging to them, something that they would be interested in, something about, say, for their rights. And so is it okay for the school to search your stuff? Is it okay for the school to go through your locker? Question, instead of just talking to them about warrants and having those kinds of things, I can make it real to them. I'm not getting any response from them now. Years and years and years, I've been doing this for a long time. I can tell you I would get responses. I would get kids engaged. Now I don't. Why don't I? Because the mask keeps them from wanting to learn. So that's what I have to say is we got to get rid of these masks, plain and simple, because they are a detriment to the educational process. And going forward, if Governor Murphy plans on doing this in September, this is another instance where parents need to stand up and start saying something about it. Just like a number of educators I know have, and just like a number of parents I know have, we need to do it together. So that's my piece on that. The next thing I want to talk about, brother, is my entire subject for tonight. So let's start with, it's all the way at the end. Oh, boy. Organ harvesting by China, brother. So you and I have been talking about this for a while. We've mentioned this as one of the part of the genocidal behavior of the Chinese government and China, and what's been going on with the Uyghurs, the Falun Gong, and the house Christians, the house churches for Christians, and pretty much anybody that stands, any political prisoner that stands against the government of China. That would include the people in Hong Kong who have been arrested and never heard from again. So you and I have been talking about the organs harvesting of political prisoners for over, for a long time. I can't remember how long we haven't been talking about it. It seems like every time I bring up China, I'm also talking about this. Now, what the problem with the background on this is, and what we're going to take this from, we're going to look at this as simple. China is bad. China is wrong for what they're doing. We got that. That's what is well known. There's a number of countries out there that have been coming out against this. They've woken up since President Trump cut the path, and a number of them are saying, "Hey, we should be a part of this too." And that's a key point. That's a key point. The understanding that we stand against China and what they're doing as the America First agenda, that is clear. But what's the connection, though? Tonight we're going to talk about connection to the Democrats, specifically BLM, and the socialist movement, the communist movement, the Marxist movement within our own country. So it's important for us to take that next step. Going forward, let's talk about we'll say the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. The Freedom Road Socialist Organization has been around for a long time, brother. They can date back all the way to the 60s, to the war, to the anti-war movement, and they are they have been a key player in bringing communism and the socialism movement. This is where a lot of this comes from because of these organizations. And to be clear, John, there's a whole bunch of communists, claiming to be Marxist in some form or another, organizations out there in our country today. It's not one, it's not two, it's a whole bunch, and they all have some interconnections. But I want to point out this particular group because the background of it is it leads to Liberation Road, and Liberation Road is the parent, along with this Freedom Road Socialist Organization, is the parent of BLM. Now, about given any time period throughout the year, there is a substantial number of so-called activists. Make sure we put a / there and understand as the terrorist types of people who are going out there and burning our cities. Those people, make sure we understand that that's the same group. There's about 1,000 of them or so that are ready to go at a moment's notice to whatever location around the country to basically rip the city apart, like they did in Minneapolis, like they've done countless throughout the entire summer of love back last year. So we can expect more of this group to attack if there's any type of Chauvin-like or any reason at all. They don't really need a Chauvin. They could just come out for the smallest thing that they can turn into a larger issue. And to be clear, I'm not suggesting that people shouldn't come out about bad things. What I'm saying is you don't have a right to burn down our cities. You don't have a right to foment Marxism and socialism to destroy our country, which is really the ultimate goal, John. The ultimate goal here is to rip down our country. And so I want to point this out because there's direct financial, direct physical connections between these groups and China. For example, a number of these fellows, you would call them fellows, people who travel to China and learn the Marxist ideology from the motherland, or whatever you want to call China, from the center of the universe. They go to China to learn how to foment this type of hatred, how to encourage it, how to make it continue. And they also, are taught Marxist ideology. So when you hear them talk about, I'm a trained Marxist, John, that's because just like they did in the 60s with the Soviet Union, when they would travel over there, you'd see these left-wingers like Alinsky travel to Russia to learn. They would take that information back. They're doing it with China. And I want to make clear that China, John, is not our friend, because not only have they foisted a disease that's wiped out 500,000 Americans and infected, millions more, and killed 5 million people around the entire world. What we see is this country is evil because of all the things that they do, not because of one particular thing. And let's talk about one of those particular things, which would be on-demand organ transplants. How do we know? Let's dive into this about the genocidal behavior of the organ transplants, because I want to make it clear, John, that who's at fault? The people who are connected to in our country are part of the problem here. It's not just China. It's also the people over here who are following the marching orders of China. And that is the trained Marxists, places like Freedom Road and Liberation Road. Those are the trained Marxists that we need to be careful of in our country. So let's talk about the organ harvesting, because that was the main subject here. In the U.S., John, and pretty much the entire Western world, you have heart transplants that take 6 to 12 months in order for the heart to become available. And heart becomes available because somebody dies, or they have a car accident, or in some way the heart isn't injured so that it can be, and the person is willing to be a donor to somebody in need. The liver is 11 months, the kidney, 3 to 5 years. These are voluntary systems. In China, it's pretty much, we'll plan on you being able to get your heart transplant next Friday, John. Next Friday, we'll be able to plan to get that. We'll be able to get a heart transplant for whoever needs it in China. Next Friday, they'll schedule the appointment a week ahead, brother, a week ahead, and like they can have the ability to see into the future to determine when someone's going to have an accident that's going to be an acceptable match. So that's an impossibility. It's an impossibility. But let's talk about
on the shower. All right.
What's that?
A lot of people slip on the soap in the shower. A lot of people slip.
Yeah. Right. So I want to give this one example that was brought up, and a lot of this information comes from the Epoch Times, and I'm breaking it down for you in the simplest terms here. They have this one person. She had a she needed a heart transplant. She came over from Japan. They used up 4 hearts for her, John. 4 in a 10-day period. There was 4 magically available to match with her. The first one that they got for her, the doctor looked at it and said, it's just not perfect. We're not going to use this one. It's not good enough. And so the second one, they got the second one there, and she had a fever. So there goes the transplant. Can't do the transplant. So to ensure that they had the best one and everything was going to go well, for the third attempt, they had 4 on June 25th. They had 2 hearts prepared, ready to go in the hospital, set aside for this woman so that they could do the heart transplant. So I'm not, where did the heart come from? Where did the heart come from? Because they just don't have that many people falling, in the shower. So the Chinese have been making a lot of money off of this. You can see on the screen, cornea is $30,000, kidney $60,000, a heart is $150,000, and this organ harvesting is been going on for years. These numbers go back to 2012, John. 2012. These are the numbers that they were spending. So if you look at if you compare it to what is going on in the UK, I just want to point out that China does not have a voluntary system like the donor system that we do. They don't have a means to collate that data so that, that require, in order to be on the donors list, like when you're looking for a heart, they have your blood type. They have, all the identifiers that they need to say that this person or that person is a good match for the donation. So China has none of that. They have none of that prepared, and yet they're able to do it on demand. For you look at UK, which is the example they provided, 18 million registered donors. Then they have the same number of wait times that we listed. 18 million registered donors, John. It's a lot of people, and it still takes them years to get a kidney. And so China came out and said, whoa, there's a reason why we are so able to do this. It's because our death row inmates, when we kill them, we have the heart available. We have whatever it is available to do it. The problem is, John, they do over 10,000 transplants a year.
Wow.
But they only have 8,000, maybe 8,000 death row inmates a year. So where's that 2,000 coming from, right? Just a little problem with their numbers there. But so I want to, throw this out there. The real estimate, because you can't really trust China's number. You just can't, John. We know that they're lying sacks of crap. We know that they can't tell the truth. That to them, a straight line is a circle. So we know that they have no idea how to tell the truth, and everything's a state secret. But so the real estimates from the people who are in the know, estimate that the actual number of transplants are 60,000 a year. 60,000 human body transplants a year. And so these must be coming from living donors. They have them farmed out, similar to the Matrix, hooked up, or living in a way so that they can keep them alive and just being able to pull whatever organ out of them they need to. Take a kidney here, take a liver there, take a heart while you're at it. So who are these people? They're the prisoners of conscience. They're the political prisoners. They're the Falun Gong. They're the Jinping church Christians. There's the people having church in their homes and their families. They're the Christian churches in their homes, and of course the Uyghur Muslims, that are they're trapped in concentration camps and have no choice but to be subjected to this type of torture. But who is John ultimately responsible? Because this idea that we have right now this period of who's complicit. Companies who provide transplants, medicines, supplies, and clinical trials. There's companies in America right now who are out there organizing medical trials on patients in China. Just like, that should sound familiar, John. Just like what happened in Wuhan, just like those testing for patients or testing the disease, working up stuff for COVID. They have in China where American companies are using trials on medicines and on they're providing training for doctors who are going off there. They're providing universities are funding research. This is our problem. This is our problem as well. We need to stop this, and we can stop this. But is there the will within the medical community willing to pull this aside? This is big business for China, and consequently, it's big business for the medical community over here, John. It's huge. It's huge business for the medical community over here. They're able to pull in a lot of money by 60,000 transplants a year. That's an enormous amount. And there's travel, there's tourism too. There's medical tourism going in there to get these transplant tourism, John. It's ridiculous. But yet it is still going on and is continuing to go on. And John, why couldn't there be a virus leak? And I'm stepping on the side here. Why couldn't there be a virus leak with all this evil going on in China? All this evil that we see happening there, brother. Why couldn't there be a virus leak? That's my question, and that's my bit. There's your sources on the screen for anybody who wants to check them out. You're welcome to go see my information, brother. I pass the torch back to you.
Okay, good one there, brother. It's really shocking. All right, in the category of the Tubin History, we have a new book out from Carol Anderson, apparently a racist pig, about called Second Race and Guns in a Fatally Unequal America. This is some kind of a liberal leftist nutjob, professor obsessed with her own race and the nonsense that you're going to start hearing in a little bit about how the Second Amendment is racist. All right, now you gotta really flip your worldview on this to understand the nonsense that is coming out. But basically, just like we have, Tubin. I think that's why Tubin News is so good, because you got a guy there. By the way, I don't see both your hands there, brother.
Right here, brother.
All right. I just really, all right. Just like you had this creep Tubin, masturbating on air all the time, and now is back with CNN. What's the difference, right? Whether he's doing it for real, right? Good job. Or he's doing it, on the air, he spent a whole career doing nothing but narcissistically talking about themselves, narcissistically masturbating on air. And that's why I think it's perfectly appropriate now that Tubin is back on CNN, and we have now Tubin News. Well, just like we have Tubin News, we also have Tubin History. These, these fools. There are real slavery
Brother,
going
doesn't
on.
he have a firm grasp on the material?
No, he does
Sorry.
not have. These people do not have a firm grasp on the material, right? They just like, but we also have this effect of it's a self-obsession about themselves and their color. This self-obsession about themselves and the slavery they never had, and that hasn't been. They haven't had for a long time. Just like last week we talked about Keon Park. Yeon Kim I butchered her name. I'm sorry. Yeon Park, who is this poor North Korean girl who escaped and defected from North Korea to China, who was an actual slave, okay, an actual slave, which is going on in Chinese communism. There is real slavery going on in Chinese communism, communist country today, and in Africa today. So there's a real slavery problem, not the mythical problem that these narcissists keep bringing up. Well, anyway, this idiot wants to turn around the Second Amendment, and you're going to start seeing a lot of this push for the Second Amendment as being something that the founding fathers came up with to keep slaves down. That's the theory, anyway. And she does this nonsensical statement about that the founding fathers were more worried about keeping the guns out of the slaves' hands than they were the invasions from Britain. Now, this is just so ahistorical. This is just so ridiculous. First of all, the Second Amendment literally is to keep guns in the hands of citizens. So it was to prevent laws which are on the books right now, which are completely anti-constitutional, anti-Second Amendment, from taking effect. It was the idea that all citizens, have a right to have a gun, including free black citizens. Now, of course, there was slavery at the beginning of the Constitution. The Constitution literally killed slavery. It stopped the importation of slaves by a certain date. It put a kill by date, as kill by switch in the Constitution. Whereas if the South wanted power, they had to recognize the slaves as citizens. If they did that, instead of being counted as 3/4 of a person, they'd be counted as a whole person, and they would get increased power. So they put a bunch of bitter pills in the Constitution, and chief among them was the Second Amendment. Now, remember this is just so ahistorical in so many levels. Of course, for the full 100 years before this, all of English law was a development of the right to have a gun in England, because you had the battle of Parliament against the king. So you had King James I, also known as King James II. Assert absolute monarchy and absolute power. You had Charles I. You had to have Parliament cut his head off. You had the rise of Cromwell. You have the rise of the Parliament. The only way they could do that was by using their God-given right to have guns and revolting in the English Civil War. And then you had various battles back and forth. Then you had the Restoration. You had Charles II come in. You have James II come in because they was Catholic. You had the Glorious Revolution and the throwing out of Parliament, rising up of Parliament again, and throwing out the king again. And you had the British Bill of Rights, establishing that Protestants, at least, had the absolute right to keep guns, which was one of the progenitors of the Second Amendment right. Of course, the Second Amendment right is a completely American doctrine and a completely American a unique thing, because it wasn't about Protestants, it was about citizens. And of course, you had the actual revolution itself, which was nothing more than a revolt against the gun grab of Parliament and the king, who both were oppressing Americans when they ordered the seizing of American guns that kicked off the shot heard around the world, and the battles of Lexington and Concord, when the American militiamen stopped the British from seizing guns. So literally, the American Revolution and the founding of the country began with a gun confiscation attempt. So it is factually wrong and ridiculous for her to say. Not only that, but of course, what happened in 1812? Well, the British came back. An entire British invasion began. They burned Washington, and we're going to burn every city on the East Coast. So that happened, in between the Revolutionary War, the founding of the country, the Constitution, and then the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, and then, a few years later, the British were back invading the coast. It's completely factually made up. This so-called professor and her so-called history. And not only that, if you want to attribute the actual gun violence, the gun laws, yes, there were Southern Democrat states. They were the Democrats down there. Every single one of them a Democrat, and every single law passed by a Democrat legislature to keep guns out of the hands of the of black slaves to begin with, and then black freedmen after the Civil War. Every single one of them a Democrat. Even the Nazis would adopt the Democrat laws when they wanted to keep guns out of the hands of the poor Jews and undesirable people in Nazi Germany. And then, of course, in 1968, when that bum Dodd was looking for a basis for the federal 1968 anti-gun gun law, he had to look to Nazi Germany's version of the Democrat law. And had to translate it from the Nazi German into English. We used to have that on our website, the actual request to the National Archives, because he was in Nuremberg. He saw that Nazi law and he wanted to translate it, and and he sent a letter to the National Archives to get it translated. That then became the basis of the 1968 federal law prohibiting machine guns. So yes, again, these are Democrat anti racist laws. So it is a fact that gun control really is the dog whistle for the Democrats to take the guns out of the hands of black people and white people, but particularly black people. Gun violence is really the dog whistle for black man with a gun. And just like the Democrats did before the Civil War, just like the Democrats did right after the Civil War and during the Jim Crow period, they are back today again, creating gun laws to systematically discriminate against black people who want to defend themselves. Now, I just exercised my First Amendment right to assemble with a bunch of my brothers and like-minded people in a gun show in Oaks and down here in Pennsylvania, and it was filled with my brother, black and brown sisters and brothers, exercising their Second Amendment right to buy guns. Now, we did a deep dive on this way back when, if you remember, in one of our earlier shows when it was just Sussex County Patriot. I think a particular journalist won the Ida Wells Journalist Award, and that would be that guy right over there, won the Ida Wells Journalism Award because one of our heroes, we'd actually did a study and written some stuff up on the autobiography and the writings of Ida Wells, who was the woman as an early journalist, true journalist, who stopped the lynching of black people in after the Civil War. She brought awareness to it, and she had a couple of great quotes that I'm going to read. So this is from good old Ida Wells, right after the Civil War period. This is one of her quotes. The only time an African American who was assaulted got away has been when he had a gun and used it in self-defense. And that was Ida Wells referring to lynching, when they would grab up black people and lynch them. So she's also the one that it says that they had the lessons this teaches us is, and when every African American should ponder is this, that a Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every black house, and it should be used for that protection which the law refuses to give. And so she's that one that what's reason one of the reasons why we loved her is that every black home should have a Winchester a rifle in it. Another one of her quotes is, the only way that to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. She was a true journalist in that she she began a newspaper to expose all of these individual incidents of lynchings of black people for imaginary crimes. And it was almost like she was speaking to these virtue signaling, narcissistic Tubin fake historians of today. And she this is one of my favorite quotes from her. Virtue knows no color line, and the chivalry which depends upon complexion of skin and texture of hair can command no honest respect. So she's speaking to that creep Carol Anderson and her ilk, who would draw everything about the texture of someone's hair and the color, the complexion of their skin. She would say they deserve no honest respect, and they don't. We should ridicule them for the fake historians that they are. As one WAG has pointed out, or as a bumper sticker has pointed out, citizens own guns and slaves don't. Or as it's my shout out to my particular a cultural commentary and WAG, it says abortion is murder, guns are self-defense. And so that's our segment on the new thing that you're going to be hearing about the Second Amendment, how it is allegedly racist. No, it's not. It's the exact opposite of racist.
Well, gun control is racist. That's for sure.
Gun control is racist. So the only people who believe in gun control are racist.
That's right.
Today, back in this during the Civil War, and still today.
Seems like there's a connection to that with the critical race theory that we had up at the beginning of this show.
We circled back.
We did. We circled back. So that's the end of our show then, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for listening as long as you have. Please make sure you like and subscribe to our channel, and please tell your friends about us, because the only way that we're going to be able to push back against the left, the only way we can guarantee that we're going to be able to hold the line and push back, is by spreading the good news and the message that we have here at Ballistic Patriot, and do that for every single commentator out there who believes, as you do, that we need to push back. There's no doubt about this in my mind. We need to make sure that we push back the red, or we push back the blue Powerade for the red Powerade, as I think our friend Jim is mentioning on his post there. But I want to get the message out, ladies and gentlemen. We can't take this anymore. We can't be lying down. We can't expect somebody else to fight this for us. We have to stand up. We have to get out there. It's not just voting is not enough anymore. Voting is only the first thing that you should be doing. You should be out there speaking to your friends, talking to your friends, having conversations with your friends, showing up at the rallies and getting your voice heard, holding your flag high, and letting everyone know that you love this country, that God blesses this country, and that America first is the agenda that you want to push. And on that note, brother, it's all good.
Because God loves you.
Because God loves you. And remember that in the days going ahead, ladies and gentlemen. Remember that.
fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take